Fine, I got one. I got one. I got
Oh,
one.
okay.
At first, when you were starting your social media, Giddy, like, what were your feelings about it? Were you all in from the beginning, or were you like, I just kind of got to go with this, or what's your feelings on that?
I kind of just like
Oh,
went
yeah.
with it, it made Tamar happy. Actually, I remember like I had a friend of mine like it actually goes back to the fertility kind of journey. He wanted to talk to me about like in like a more like public setting, like I won't go into details about who it is so we can't figure out who it is. Like let's say it was like a live or podcast or something like that. And I'm like, listen, like I don't want to talk about that now because like, what if that ends up airing when like we're in between cycles or something and like Ein Hara and like I don't want to deal with any of that stuff at that time. And then he's like, oh, but you let Tamar like do all these stuff on social media and be all public about that. And I'm like, listen, man, like this like makes her happy and it's a good outlet and all
We
that.
also have to say that we have asked Rav Benarsh, like our Rav, who is the head of Grus.
He's one of the Rosh Kollel.
He's one of the Rosh Kollel at Grus
Yeah.
about my page. We talked to him if we, have questions and whatever. And he's actually pretty supportive of the page. And he did not see anything. Meaning, obviously, he does not know everything that goes on in the page. Like, I don't know if I would send him my sex ed, reel. But for the most part, I think that he is on board. And also, one of the big things I always, always, always say is Hashem can say no to me. Hashem can say no to Giddy. But Hashem can't say no to thousands of people davening for us. So I think that is a big inspiration for me.
That is actually a really nice thought. And I was also thinking, going back to what you said about Shidduchim, in terms of like having singles kind of more like, I mean, I guess a little bit more vocal in terms of like they're suffering kind of out loud. They'll like, I know like when I was on the bra side, I know Max is not the biggest fan, but I found that like everybody like had fun and like we were single, we had parties, like we were able to enjoy our singlehood together. Not a lot of people are very vocal about fertility, or they like to keep it hush hush. Which it is. It's very private. It is very private, but it's hard then because it's such a private, sensitive matter that the outlets out there, not a lot of people vocalize.
Sarah, I think that the big thing, and people look over this a lot.
Yeah.
Is, in the single scene, right? You have people that are single and they're, 24, and then you have people that are single and they're like 50, okay?
Mm-hmm.
In fertility, you also have that wide spectrum.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the difference is that like there is more overlap in conversations because people are like, oh, like I'm going through infertility. Oh, I'm going through, like, people don't realize how big of a gap it is, and people will be like, oh, have you tried this? I'm like, yes, I have tried that. Like
Right.
I've tried Clomid, I've tried Letrozole. Thanks for the information, But like, I think that some people are very much like, have you done this segula? It's there's some
That's
people.
something we have in common, I think, with the shidduch thing.
No, but I think that there's some. I'm not saying against the shidduch thing. I'm saying against people that are just starting their journey with fertility, and then people, right? And then they have a baby, and then they're starting again, right? So like we've already we know people that have struggled with infertility, had a child, now are trying again to have their second child while we're still struggling. And it's like, how do we talk to them when we're no longer struggling? I mean, when we are still struggling and they're no longer struggling, and they think that, but then they're struggling again, but it's a different struggle because it's like they already have a
100%. It sounds, yeah.
I think being single and being married is a little bit more black and white than the fertility world.
Gotcha.
I mean, broken engagements do happen a lot, and divorce does happen a lot, but it's like
there's a multi-dimension to the fertility world. Yeah, sure.
So you were always just open about it, or did you ever like think for a moment? Did you feel that you really like it was just natural to you?
We live in Ramat Beit Shemesh, and we didn't have kids 3 years into our marriage, and we're both extroverts. So when I would go to the park and I would be without my kid, there was no choice. It was like, why are you guys at the park without a child? That's kind of weird. So I'd be like, hey, I'm Tamar. We're struggling with infertility. Nice to meet you. Okay. And like kids do say stuff to me. Like I'm saying, even kids that have known me for a long time. Like last year, there was a girl that came up to me who I've known since she's born, basically. And she's like, do you have any daughters? And I'm like, no, you know that. And like, I was totally fine with it. But I think that like, I also think it's an education factor, right? Like a lot of parents, not that I'm talking to everybody about, not that I'm talking to kids about the details, like the minute details, but I think that like there are a lot of conversations that have been brought up, Dafka, because Giddy and I are in the community. We're a big part of the community. We've been married for 8.5 years and don't have kids. And we become close to a lot of our neighbors' kids. And like, they ask questions, and they dive in for us. And like, I'll tell, like, and their parents are okay with it. It's not like, I'm not going to go to them and be like, let's talk about sperm and egg. And no, but like, I mean, I'll tell you this story and then I'll wrap it up. But for Purim, 4 years ago, when we were one of our Purim costumes, I did decide that it would be very funny to dress up as doctors and give out Kinder eggs and jellyfish. And like, parents
It's a cute idea.
But like,
Yeah.
The kids wouldn't get it.
The kids weren't gonna get it, but like,
Uh-huh.
it was just fun. But I think that, but I'm not gonna go up to the kids and be like, "Do you get it?" But like at the same time, like they, especially kids, like I'll say one last story. My nephew came up to me this weekend at the mall. We were like at the mall together, and he goes, "You're a mom," and I'm like, "I'm not a mom. You know that. I've been married 8.5 years. Do you see my kids?" He goes, "No, but you're married, so that's close enough." And like a lot of kids do think married equals mom, and I think that it's a really big learning opportunity, especially because of how open Giddy and I are, and how like friendly Giddy and I are, and like whatever that like people the kids are able to see. Oh wow, like Giddy and Tamar don't have kids, but like their marriage is strong, and they have conversations with our parents on the same like level, and they know like what I'm talking about, like, and they grew up with it. So I think like if one of the kids ever struggles with infertility, chas v'shalom times a million when they are older, or something like that, it won't be their first time. And my guidance counselor struggled for 10 years.
Wow.
Between, like after she did have a kid, but then she struggled for 10 years. And like, I definitely remember her talking about it, and it made a big difference in my life for sure.
Also, like that parents being as adults, like I think that's also something that involves Shidduchim. It's more the Haredi world, but like also like especially in like that in like those circles, they'll put like single women like at like a kids table, and like it's just like remembering that like that like adults are like adults too, and people too, and just like just being like a sensitive person.
Sorry that I have one more story, but I need to say this because
it's okay.
Okay. I'll never forget this. I went to when I was 24, we moved to Ramat Beit Shemesh. And I went to a person's house, and they were more yeshivish, and they went up to me. Their 16-year-old daughter goes up to me and goes, "Mrs. Ben Tzvi," and I'm like, "Huh? I'm 24. Why are you calling me Mrs. Ben Tzvi?" And she literally, she goes to me and she goes, "Yeah, because you're married." So I asked her. I said, "Well, what would you call someone that they're not married?" She goes, "I'd call them by their first name." And I go, "Well, what makes me different? Because I'm married, you're going to call me Mrs., but because they're not married, you're going to call them by their first name?" That doesn't make sense, especially because so many more people that aren't married are probably a lot more mature than me. So let's, I think that that's definitely something that we want to debunk. And just like, don't call people a mom when they're not a mom. Don't call people, like Mrs. when they're like, don't call don't only call people that are married Mrs. and people that are single by their first name. Like, no, like,
Mhm.
just like
And
treat
just don't make assumptions about anything. You know what I'm
everyone should be
saying?
at the same level, and like it should not be different if one's there's no rhyme or reason why someone is married and someone is not. Don't give someone that's not married less respect. Don't give someone that's not married less respect, and don't give someone that is married more respect. Give everyone
Mhm.
respect, be courteous and respectful, and be confident.
Yeah.